After his stunning victory at the Battle of Granicus, Alexander the Great was far from satisfied. The young Macedonian king had only just begun his legendary campaign against the Persian Empire, and now his sights were set on a far greater challenge. The Persian king Darius III, alarmed by Alexander's bold advance, gathered an immense army to crush the upstart invader once and for all. The stage was set for a monumental clash that would determine the fate of empires, a clash known as the Battle of Issus. Today, we're diving into the dramatic events of the Battle of Issus, where Alexander faced Darius in a confrontation that would forever change the course of history. We'll explore the strategies, the stakes, and the reasons why Darius and the mighty Persian Empire suffered a crushing defeat. It was the year 333 BC. Alexander, having secured his control over Asia Minor, marched his army southward along the Mediterranean coast. He knew that Darius would not let his earlier victory go unchallenged. The Persian king had assembled a vast army, reportedly numbering over 100,000 strong, an overwhelming force by any standard. But Alexander was no ordinary commander. He was determined to confront Darius directly, knowing that a decisive victory against the Persian king himself would send shockwaves throughout the empire. The encounter came at a narrow coastal plain near the town of Issus in modern-day Turkey. Issus was a natural choke point, a place where the terrain could neutralize Darius's overwhelming numerical advantage. The battlefield was flanked by the sea on one side and the rugged mountains on the other, leaving little room for Darius's massive army to maneuver. As the two armies faced off, the contrast between them was stark. On one side stood Alexander's well-trained and disciplined Macedonian phalanx, a force honed by years of intense preparation and loyalty to their king. On the other side was Darius's vast, but more loosely organized, Persian force, a mix of soldiers from various regions of the empire, many of whom had never fought under Darius's direct command. Darius, confident in his numbers, positioned himself at the center of his army, surrounded by his elite troops. He placed his cavalry on the flanks, intending to encircle Alexander's smaller force. But this was exactly what Alexander had anticipated. As the battle began, Alexander made his move. He deployed his forces with precision, sending his phalanx to pin down the Persian center while he led a daring cavalry charge on the right flank. Alexander's strategy was bold. He aimed to break through the Persian lines and strike directly at Darius himself. The Macedonian cavalry, led by Alexander in person, smashed into the Persian left wing with devastating effect. The Persian cavalry, caught off guard by the ferocity and speed of the attack, began to falter. As Alexander's forces drove deeper into the Persian lines, the situation for Darius grew increasingly desperate. Meanwhile, in the center, the Macedonian phalanx pushed forward with relentless determination. The Persian infantry, less disciplined and less motivated, struggled to hold their ground. The narrow terrain worked against them, preventing them from bringing their superior numbers to bear. The turning point of the battle came when Alexander's cavalry broke through the Persian left and began to swing around toward the center, where Darius was stationed. Realizing that his position was about to be overrun, Darius made a fateful decision. He abandoned the battlefield and fled, leaving his army to fend for itself. Seeing their king in flight, the Persian soldiers lost heart. The sight of Darius's royal chariot racing away from the battlefield spread panic through the ranks. The once mighty Persian army began to disintegrate, soldiers fleeing in all directions as the Macedonians pressed their advantage. By the end of the day, the battlefield was littered with the bodies of Persian soldiers, and the once invincible army of Darius II had been shattered. Alexander's victory at Issus was complete, and it was a victory that would resonate throughout the ancient world. So, why did Darius and his massive army lose this pivotal battle? First and foremost was Darius's overconfidence. He believed that sheer numbers would be enough to overwhelm Alexander, but he underestimated the strategic genius and the disciplined fighting force that Alexander commanded. The narrow terrain of Issus nullified the advantage of his larger army, leaving him vulnerable to Alexander's superior tactics. Second, there was Darius's poor leadership. Unlike Alexander, who led from the front, inspiring his men with his personal bravery, Darius remained at the rear of his forces. When the battle turned against him, his decision to flee rather than fight alongside his troops shattered their morale. A leader's courage on the battlefield can often be the difference between victory and defeat, and Darius's retreat sealed the fate of his army. Another key factor was Alexander's superior strategy. Alexander understood the importance of terrain and the value of a focused attack. By targeting the Persian left flank and then threatening Darius directly, Alexander forced the Persian king into a defensive posture from which he could not recover. Alexander's ability to read the battlefield and adapt his tactics was unmatched, and it was this brilliance that turned the tide at Issus. Finally, there was the lack of unity within the Persian forces. Darius's army was a conglomerate of soldiers from various regions of his vast empire, many of whom had little loyalty to him personally. In contrast, Alexander's forces were a unified and cohesive unit, fiercely loyal to their king and each other. This unity and discipline were crucial in the heat of battle, where confusion and fear can quickly spread. The Battle of Issus was more than just another victory for Alexander. It was a defining moment in his campaign against the Persian Empire. With Darius in flight and his army in disarray, the path to the heart of the Persian Empire lay open before Alexander. But the story doesn't end here. Alexander's campaign would take him further into the Persian heartland, culminating in even greater battles and ultimately the fall of one of the most powerful empires in history. What do you think was the most significant factor in Alexander's victory at Issus? Was it his leadership, his strategy, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the most legendary battles of history.